This project was supposed to be done last September, which means that we ended up going into another navigation season. So if you look out there, there's 3 spans that are 157 feet long roughly on the far side. Then just this side of that, there's a 36-foot wide slab span. They left that open so that last summer we still had to have navigation through here. You know, the Coast Guard basically said, no, you're not getting away with it. They were really close to delaying this project because of the amount of complaints that we have from the boating public. We put convex mirrors on there because as you approach through that span, you really couldn't see people. When you had a lot of rain here and they had to open the floodgates, you know, there was a fair amount of vortexing through there. So, you know, it really made this project pretty touch and go for a while. We did our best to try and let them know that we wanted to stay on target for our dates, not to have another 12-month, you know, delay. There's a hospital right over here. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons why we didn't want to postpone the project. So in the end, Coast Guard worked with us. We were able to push through and we got it done. But even at that, we didn't finish until basically April. So, you know, you're talking, 6-7 months basically of delay. Of course, because of that, you know, we impose liquidated damages. That is going to be probably fought out in arbitration. It's controlled electrically, so there's AC motors down there that move it. You know, we'll go and look at the configuration down there. This is probably one of the simplest designs. I don't know how many got a chance to go through or go look at the aerial lift last week, but I know, you know, a number of us did. You know, that bridge, although it's really impressive to look at, the maintenance on there is probably a nightmare. I mean, it's just a lot. So this is easy to maintain. There's obviously no overhead obstruction. You know, very little maintenance. We should easily get 75 years out of this structure. So we have cameras on all of our new bridges. Makes it really nice for the tenders. You can see the views. That console over there controls this bridge, the 2 of them. You'll see that one console is kind of for, you know, the gates and all the preliminary stuff. You've got 4 gates. You've got the rear locks right here. And then over here you move into the actual moving of the leaves, you know. So we've got some feedback here. We have a lot of information in here. So the existing bridge was our bridge. This bridge is now going to get turned over to the city. There's a statute out there that it's 8410 statute, which states any state trunk highway, the bridge basically, when we either reconstruct or build anew, it has to be turned back to the local municipality. So even if it's like a connecting highway bridge, which I'm sure you're familiar with, we have that same setup where we pay for the operation, the maintenance, but City of Green Bay owns the Nitschke Bridge. We pay for the operations of it. That's the agreement. So this controls this bridge. Just like the old bridge, we own the Tayco Street Bridge, which is just an eye shot down here if you take a look. That is what you're seeing in this view over here. That is a single leaf hydraulic that was built in '93, I believe. We had a failure on the existing bridge. It was a counterweight that was mounted on true trunnion bearings, so it articulated as it opened, and those bearings failed, I believe, in '89. One of the bearings seized up, broke the casting on the side of the counterweight. Counterweight fell, leaf fell. It was about 5 feet away from a pontoon boat, and luckily nobody got hurt or killed. So what you're looking at, we did not change the control console. We went to remote operations with this bridge back in 2005. This was the first bridge that we remotely operated. State owns 13, all but two of those 13 are remotely operated. You In Green Bay, the Bart Star Bridge, which is the Walnut Street Bridge, operates Nitschke and Mason Street. Down in Oshkosh, we have the Wisconsin Street Bridge, operates 3 bridges. Congress, Oregon, no, it does not operate. Oregon Jackson is actually going to be going away. It operates the Main Street Bridge. So we have 1 operate 2. When you get into 1 operating 3, it becomes really difficult. Just a lot of, down there's a lot of traffic. A lot of those bridges are opening, you know, in the summertime like this, 40 to sometimes 60 times a day. So it's a lot. On the busy times down there, we actually have 2 tenders in 1 house, and they still remotely operate. And that's basically Thursday night through Sunday, and then Monday through Wednesday, we have just 1 tender that operates. Tim here is operator. He's been here since 5 years. 5 years. You know, he can kind of tell you what the old one was like. The old lift bridge. The old lift bridge was built in 1950, double bascule as well. But there was a lot of built-up sections, riveted connections that were really getting bad. So Tayco Street over there, there's actually just 1 leaf.
Okay. Which just opens up 1 way?
Yep.
Okay.
So with Tayco Street, when they designed it, it was hydraulic. When you have a single leaf, you have to stop traffic from going into the waterway basically. So they had a hydraulic bollard system that actually came out of the ground.
Yeah.
Really bad idea. It was terrible. The maintenance on it was just horrendous. You know, many days where we had issues. If you lose a little bit of pressure and one of those bollards settles down, it's permissive to stop the leaf from moving. So, you know, and if one of those bollards would settle, it usually meant that there was a leaky fitting down there. And so the tender would keep raising it, which meant that they pumped the leak into the floor, down into the counterweight pit, and then we'd have to go down there and clean that oil out. So it was like putting a log splitter in a rainforest, basically. So if you can kind of picture that with salt added to it. So yeah, it leaked a lot. There was really no way to keep those bollards dry. So those are overhead barrier gates, and there's a ball and socket on that. And actually, Tim could probably do well, you have a lift coming, don't you? You said?
Tomorrow.
Oh, that's tomorrow. Okay.
So those actually like connect to each other?
They connect together. And what the stipulation is that you have to stop a truck at 35 miles an hour. And that's what they're rated for. We have a little bit of trouble. When those 2 interlock together, there's a proximity switch out there to tell it that, yeah, we're down, everything's good. We've had some issues with that originally, but it's been pretty flawless once we got it dialed in. So why don't we do this? Tim, why don't you do a lift over at Tayco? That way,
I've
if
never
we have a
seen that
problem,
open.
we can address it for tomorrow, if you don't mind.
So do we own that bridge too?
We do.
WisDOT does?
Yeah.
Is that like this one? It's an 8410 bridge or no?
It would be if we rebuilt it.
Okay.
That
yeah.
would be a connecting highway. Yeah.
Okay.
It's inside the city limits. Yeah.
So this one isn't, is this connecting highway?
It is not.
So why did we own it? Just
Good
some weird
question.
agreement at some point? Okay.
High cost bridge. In fact, to make matters even more confusing, the ones up in Sturgeon Bay should have went back to the city as well. Michigan Street and the new Maple Oregon Street Bridge up there, which was built in 2008.
And to kind of watch traffic,
Yeah.
everybody just runs the red lights.
They like to
So those
Beat
guys
it.
have stopped on that north end. Okay, what's this guy gonna do?
bring it down to scare them.
Politicians got to work, and they said that we basically talked to our head of transportation. They said, you will be keeping those bridges indefinitely, basically. So it got political. I think we've learned from that process, and so I doubt you're going to see that again. Honestly, my opinion, we should keep them. We're better suited to maintain them,
Yeah.
to make sure that there isn't a costly City of Green Bay, we're bailing them out to the tune of 2.1 million. And 99% of that money is because of lack of maintenance.
Okay.
So the two barriers are together.
Yep.
And just so you guys understand, everything is permissive. And when I say permissive, it means if one step fails, you can't go to the next step. Everything is interlocked for safety reasons. Upper left corner, you're looking at a thermal imaging camera. We do that for night operations. Makes it a lot easier to pick out pedestrians more than anything. That's why we do it. City of Milwaukee actually had a fatality last year. Really unfortunate situation. They do not have thermal imaging cameras. You know, whether that would have made the difference or not, I think it probably would have. They don't. They've kind of let their camera system fall by the wayside, and it wasn't intentional. It's just if you're not on the cutting edge of technology, you don't know that you've been passed up. So we do a.
My gate, that's not gonna work correct. Looks like the wind might have blown
No,
that.
it'll be fine.
Okay,
If you have your,
here's my gate screen.
yeah, they're down.
They're down. Okay, so it's, see, this is locked, or is there only one that's gonna lock?
No, you're looking. So yeah, it's just the barrier on this side.
Oh,
You don't-
okay, so it's
you
not the
don't-
south
those
side.
Those two don't touch.
Okay,
Yeah, because the leaf is in the way, right? They can't go through the leaf that it's open.
locks.
So, City of Milwaukee reached out. I brought them down to Oshkosh to kind of show them what we have down there, and then they started realizing, yeah, we need to upgrade. So, but it's a
Was
cost.
it overnight that they lifted it up and?
No, it was not. No, it was. I think it was like maybe 7 o'clock,
Okay.
7, 8 o'clock at night. Nothing.
Nothing, it's not letting me withdraw my locks.
Yeah, let's go back to the gates.
The gates are all down.
Do we have any? Okay, go ahead and try and pull the rear locks again. Got our permissive here.
The battery's getting hot.
Locks.
It's just like this.
Go ahead and take it back onto the gates. And I'll go over there after.
Is there like an allotted time it has to be, like it can be down for this amount of time, but before it has to, or up before it has to be down?
No, so yeah, you can stop. It's a good question. So at any point in the operation, you can stop it because very few boats are going to wait for that bridge to go all the way up in the air. 99% of the operation down here is pleasure craft. So Coast Guard regulation states that the boats are supposed to wait until the leaves are fully over, which if you look at those navigation lights down there, you can see the red lights in the center, right here. So they're red now. They go to green when this thing is fully open, which is about 70 degrees. That means that the tip of that leaf is plumb with that rail, those bumpers right there. That means they have the full width of this span. Right? 90% of the time they do not wait for that. And that's up to them, you know. So normally a boat will go through. As soon as they're through, you can go ahead, you sound the horn, lower the bridge, and you just gotta watch. And the nice thing is with the waterway cameras, you can kind of see if somebody's gonna try and sneak in while you're lowering it, and it does happen, especially when there's, 4th of July, heavy traffic, heavy boat traffic time.
So at times when it is heavy, like a 4th of July weekend, you open it for one boat and then you see another one coming, traffic's getting backed up, and you eventually just say, okay, we gotta close the bridge for
Boat has right away.
We don't, because just like said, boats have eminent domain, so it's kind of like the railroad. They could care less about the traveling public. Coast Guard, if you tell them, hey, the bridge is stuck up in the air, they'd say, good,
Great.
that's great. Let us know if you ever get it back down. You know.
So are all dams kind of regulated by the Coast Guard, or is there something special about this?
Army Corps of
Or Army
Engineers.
Corps? Yeah,
Yes.
nice.
I think all, actually, all of them
Okay.
are. Unless they're private, and I don't know too many private ones, to be honest with
Even
you.
if it's like part of like a paper
It could be like a
mill?
lake, yeah,
even-
especially if it's a paper mill.
Okay.
You know, they're gonna regulate it. Yeah, they're all over industry because, you know, throughout history, paper mills don't have the best track record for being on the up and up. Let's just put it that way. They'll do what is good for the paper industry rather than what's good for the surrounding watershed. So, I mean, that's a big part of it, right? But I think more importantly, they just never understood the impacts of what they were doing. If I can play a devil's advocate, which, you know, some were good and some, I think they did it on purpose. So I would say, Tim, roughly what, about 5 minutes up? 5 minutes and down? About
Yeah,
5 minutes
on a
total?
full opening, yes.
Yep.
Most of the time, the boats that come through here, I go 20%, hit the stop button, and down I go. I open up fully for sailboats only.
When it goes into creep, you can go ahead and hit stop and we'll go back down, but take it up the majority of the way.
Okay.
So there is a computer that controls this right here. Obviously, you can see that Tim's not doing a whole lot right now.
I like it
That's
this way.
because, you know, there's a computer that basically does all of it. The meshing, as soon as those two leaves break apart, it tells it to go to full speed. Tim's here to watch to make sure that there is nobody in between those two gates. A couple years back, probably what, 5 or so?
Yeah.
We had a lady during 4th of July, she went right through the
Ballards,
gates. She got in between, and if it wasn't for, this was late at night, this was after fireworks were over. She was drunk, bike fell in, she fell in, but the leaf was probably about maybe 20 degrees-ish.
Yeah.
Luckily, somebody in their car got out and was watching the boats go through, heard her, and that's when basically started yelling, and then so the tender didn't lower the bridge. If the tender would have lowered the bridge, she'd have been killed. So,
So she fell in while this was up then?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
only partial. So she was gonna ride her bike across, didn't realize that, you know, you have that gap. As this thing goes back, it goes down. And luckily, she caught in between there. The gap was probably maybe 1.5-ish.
Yeah.
You know, we've been lucky. So in my 24 years here, we have not had a fatality. We did have a fatality before that down in Oshkosh. I don't recall the year exactly, but disabled person went through the gates on his motorized scooter and just kept going. And, you know, it was already moving at the time. They tried to stop it in time. He fell backwards, hit his head on the back of the brake in the opening, and yeah, he didn't make it. So.
I've had a person, like in the bridge is in this position, where he jumped that opening,
Oh yeah.
and when the bridge comes down, he's sitting at that point. So then all you can do is just hit the emergency stop and yell at him, get the hell off the bridge.
Yeah.
So you can see how smooth this operates. Very repeatable. You know, with the introduction of a computer to control it, you also have the problems with it, right? I mean, it's not flawless, but what it does do for you is it gives you a much easier opportunity to troubleshoot it. You can get online with it. It kind of shows you, if you know what you're looking for, depending on who programmed it, you can follow it fairly easily on what point this is, this is screwing up. So that's a good thing. That bridge over there, we did a project in 2015, upgraded everything to computer control.
Ooh, I hope this closes fast.
Some of the problems that we would have when it was a relay project,
Yikes.
it would take 2 to 3 days. We had cabinets almost the full length of this, full of relays. So when you try to go through and troubleshoot that, it makes it really difficult.
That's unfortunate timing.
It happens.
It's almost
Yeah.
done now.
Yeah.
So that over there is a light that signals to the people coming up to the roundabout?
Yes.
Have there been issues with backing up the roundabout?
Yes.
Was it really a great idea to put a roundabout at the end of it?
It's really close too.
I will defer on that. I don't think it was a bad idea to put a roundabout in.
But
It should have been back at that intersection back there,
Yeah.
because it only takes one person to totally screw up. You know, well, he's okay, because he's kinda in the gap there,
Yeah.
but,
If it backs up further, then,
yeah.
That's
Cannon it does.
crazy.
yeah.
Now she's flustered. Far outweighs what the initial savings is. Hydraulic cylinders are only good for about 20 years. Same thing with the pumps, maybe 30.
And make it different than what oil and
Oh wow, Jesus.
So, because we're not completely done with this bridge, or at least the city deems that we're not completely done with this bridge, they're fighting us on the maintenance of it. So, like when I got here today, I greased the center jaws because I could hear them. We got to work through that. But this rack and pinion should be greased again. You can kind of see here where you've got some shiny metal. It's not to the point where it's all metal on metal, but it's one of those things where you want to keep this lubricated because you don't want metal on metal. But anyway, power is coming from the inside of the machinery room, goes to this pinion gear, and then this. So they made this up. Okay, so file on down. So, on my bridges, I do not install those brake covers. You can't see what's going on with the brakes. Safety-wise, they should be on. The only thing I look at is there's very few people that are gonna be down here, and if you get caught in that brake and get hurt, you shouldn't be down here in the first place. So, you know, if they are on, normally I take them off because I can't see what's going on with that. So what you have here is you have two 50-horse motors. That's all that operates this thing. There's two motor brakes right there. Power goes into this center gearbox here, this primary, and then goes out to the secondary reducers, which reduce the speed even more. I believe these are 1185 RPM. All the new bridges have enclosed gearing. Ones that were built all the way up until even the 90s, they've got open gearing. Good and bad. You've got a lot of oil in here. I don't know exactly how many gallons, but like the Walnut Street Bridge, to replace the oil on that bridge, you're talking 2,200 gallons at $15 a gallon. So it's extremely expensive. We just went through and we pulled it all out, filtered it through micron filters, put it back in. I test it on a regular basis to make sure it doesn't break down, but you want to try and get everything you can out of that oil because you're talking $100,000 to replace the oil alone. Open gearing is a lot simpler. You can look and see what's going on with the tooth face. If you have a bearing problem, it starts to wear uneven on those teeth. I would rather see open gearing, but that's not usually what happens.
Yeah. Big group out there. So are these filters supposed to
They should.
Oh.
So these are induction motors, the old wound rotor motors where you could actually see the windings in there. Those typically did not. I've pulled probably 4 bridges and had the motors rebuilt.
Okay.
So, unless there's a problem, an imbalance, one of the things that you can get if these are over-greased, if they over-grease and the grease gets into the windings, shorts them out, so you could have a problem there. But if they're maintained properly, they should last the bridge.
Safe to say.
Misunderstanding. Same thing with the gearboxes. The gearboxes should all last the bridge, typically. Again, as long as they're maintained, the oil is checked, there's no problem, manufacturing defect.
Jesus. Oh my god. Wow.
You like it, buddy?
Yeah.
So this isn't full open, this is probably,
Halfway.
I'm gonna guess about 60 degrees, somewhere in there. So one of the issues we've got is when this thing seats, it drives up against an uplifter or slabs. What you need to do is you need to torque this bridge down, set the brakes so that you set that wind up into the bridge. Otherwise, then you sit there and bang and bounce. But what's happening because of the way this integrator set it up, we're losing some of that wind up. So then you create a gap in that light motion, and there's a good chance to see it. The nice thing is that the drives that we have here, which control the motors, you can tell this bridge to sit here at 0 all day long. So the motors now do all the braking basically for the most part. Only thing those brakes do is they hold the wind up, and if there's an emergency, when they hit that E-stop, all 4 of them set right now.
Is there any damage done to them when it hits the E-stop?
The E-stop it? No. Really, this thing is designed very robust. So the 2 leaves should be coming together right now. Interlock? So they call it a jaw and diaphragm. On this side, you have the jaw, and it kind of sits like this. The bottom half is longer, so that when they come together, they do like this, basically. So now we're going to go into creep mode. We're going to get it down tight. We're going to hold power to the motors, and then we're going to set the brakes. Problem is, they're not setting these brakes, they're setting the emergency brakes. So you can get some slippage on the windup. And we'll see how this one sets. So yeah, it's definitely not, you felt that back and forth movement. It is not driving this bridge up against the live load shoe. And when we go down below and look at the counterweight, I'll kind of show you where that is. But that's what's going on. So if we had a failure of all the brakes, and let's just say this thing unwound, this rear lock is put in place so that it can't tip forward. This is really just a safety feature. You've got 4 brakes per side. You've got the other leaf. So essentially 8 brakes would have to fail